But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night, we will not vanish without a fight, we're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
No, it's not true. It doesn't matter what's true. It matters the story they tell when you're gone.
I keep on pushing down my gypsy road. All right. This is fun times, guys. Now, Dr. Wu is actually out hunting. He's actually out hunting this morning. It's deer season, and he will try to come in and spots if he can or not. But we got an awesome replacement. We got the skeleton from the He-Man himself, the He-Man show, the cartoon. That's Skeletor. That's a gift that keeps on giving.
Hello, humans.
How's it going, Master of the Universe?
It's going well. As well as it can be.
So how many people have you sacrificed today?
Oh, the day's early.
I fucking love that. The day's early.
I heard you had a early morning today, though. You were up early and at it.
5 a.m. I harvest more souls before 9 a.m. than most people do all day. So
I was up early too. I had an eye exam, and then I actually hit the woods too. But that's pretty interesting that both you and I were on our parallels, on the opposite sides of the country as well, but kind of searching for the same thing.
Absolutely.
Pretty magical. And then we got the dog man over there.
The dog was all quiet until the show starts and is going crazy. It's probably those fucking bunny rabbits that just keep hanging out in my front yard. It just drives the dogs crazy. People don't understand. We're flooded with rabbits where we live. I know it's weird, right? It's like Night of Olympus has come true. I might have to get Skeletor to come over here and get rid of all these rabbits. And it's the wife's fault, dude. She starts feeding them, throws lettuce, throws it out there. Now they all just sit on the grass, just each front in the window, drives the dog crazy.
Isn't there a big conspiracy about the rabbits over there too? Like a bunch were not free.
There was a house 2 blocks up, and I guess there used to be some kind of rabbit contest of who had the best looking rabbits. So these aren't like rabbits from the streets. These are like show rabbits. And apparently they bred them for this show, and then something happened where they had to move and they couldn't take the rabbits with them, and they just opened the gates and let them go. So and these rabbits, they just rapidly just reproduce. And they're the most gorgeous colors because these are like show rabbits, and they're just everywhere. And whatever I do, my dog doesn't want to kill them. He wants to jump on them, play with them. Actually, I don't know. He might chop a neck. I haven't really gotten that close yet. But I don't know if you guys know this about rabbits. You can scare a rabbit to death for like 2 days. A rabbit could look like it's dead, but it's not because it got scared to death. And then it will get up one day and run off.
That's classic. That's petrified, man.
I need to have a talk with your dog. I'll get him to where he wants to kill every one of them.
Now, guys, the title of the show is actually called "Where Does Bigfoot Live Exactly?" Because we did a show before, Connor, numbers of where the hot spots are for the UFOs we kind of did with Bigfoot, but I wanted to research. So I went to research to find out, where do these numbers even come from? How do you consider what state actually has the most Bigfoots, right? I was curious. So I called some of these places and nobody has answers. Well, we get a lot of our information from 911s. I'm like, really? So when 911 gets a phone call about Bigfoot,
we're going to talk Bigfoot. I got to get this mask off.
Now, did they get this information? And then what organization do they give this information to consider to put the number for these charts? And I'm figuring it out. Nobody has answers. Nobody really knows. It's like, well, then how do I know your numbers are even real? Because I have a hard time thinking that Bigfoot Anon, Jeff, Long Island Bigfoot's in the chat. Long Island Bigfoot. I doubt it. You guys are filming, but you're filming enough to say, oh, this is going to count as a sighting, and you're going to submit it. You know, who do you submit this to, right? Where does these numbers come from? And nobody has answers. I cannot find an answer. Where is this coming from? Now,
yeah, you can always try
ideas.
You could always try the national parks. Of course, the BFRO tries to be the main database, you know, and people have mixed feelings about them as an organization. You know, some of them do just want to be involved and have access to other encounters, but then there's other stories that omit very important information. And I think there should be no censorship in the world of Bigfoot and this wild man research, just because if you can connect all the dots that we know and analyze all the known data, then we're going to get closer to the answers. But if you chop off the head, you're not going to get the brain or the core of anything. So really, you know, submit your answers to your friends and your family, and then hopefully the rest will just kind of unfold. And luckily there's cool people like Jeff Harding, like Sawdust Beast, like Long Island Bigfoot Anon, Hidden Relief, Mogyan Monster, Sean G. There are many different outlets nowadays how to share your encounter. So yeah, not all of them are submitted by form, but some are sent to Canada Cryptid, Steve from How to Hunt, even Scott Carpenter, you know, relays some messages, and David Paulides. So there's many different outlets. Go straight to the newspaper if you'd like. You know, there's many different avenues.
And you got to make a good point. That's how come these numbers that you see are irrelevant, because you guys aren't submitting these. You guys are putting out for us to judge. So how many, you know, like, I don't know, maybe this has a number here. Let me see here. Let me pull this one up here. Okay. Now this is like from Live Science, which sounds weird that a live science, you know, science, because science ain't gonna back up shit for Bigfoot, you know. But this is from Science. 10 most active big sites, U.S. Of course, they have Pennsylvania, they have New York, you know, they have Colorado, and you know, and it has these numbers here: sightings 98, 101, 110. Michigan has 141. Illinois 176. Florida, 207, Ohio, 224, Oregon, 227, California, 425, and Washington, 528.
And all those numbers are this week, right? That's how many sightings this week?
Yes. And this is what I'm saying.
No, you know what the article means. It's like year, but you know what I'm saying. I'm saying those numbers are this week's sightings. That's how many people are having Sasquatch encounters weekly. But of course, it's not going to be submitted to Live Science or geographicnational.org anymore.
and exactly. I think everything that I've seen watching you guys, most everybody I've seen talking Bigfoots are actually more Midwest and backer. I haven't, except for your friend in Oregon.
And Jeff represents a lot of the West as well.
Talk about Bigfoot from the Northwest, and they're number one. So I'm like, where are these people and where are all these numbers coming from? So Jeff, what do you think?
I think that geographically, it's just a mindset of people in Oregon, Washington, throughout Canada. I think most of those sightings don't get told. People are comfortable with not telling them. They don't feel they have to tell them, just because it's a little bit more accepted maybe that it's there, you know. I mean, people might talk. First of all, if I don't report an encounter, everybody has a need to tell somebody when they see something like that. Trust me, you can't experience that without carrying a burden of needing to unload it and share it with somebody. But when you live in an area where it's a little bit easier to share it with people because it's just more socially accepted that it exists, those are reports that don't get registered in this stuff. I refuse to believe that Florida has 50% of the same reports as Washington State. Absolutely not.
I agree with you.
There are got to be 10 times the encounters in Washington State than Florida. But people in Washington don't feel compelled to go run and fill out a report sheet on BFRO or something, you know.
This is why you're about 100% correct, because I've told a story that our family, you know, I'm from California originally. We go to the mountains hunting every single year. We talk about Bigfoot as just like a regular person. We didn't talk about it as a folklore or a horror story. Nobody was afraid to hear about Bigfoot. It was just part of the community in a lot of different ways. So there wasn't really a need to tell kids of kids. It was just part of conversations in California. And maybe Washington you're right. Washington people are technically more laid back in a lot of ways. You could say they're country people, even living in a city. And maybe, like you said, they just don't care to talk to other people because it's not as a big deal as maybe in certain areas.
It was the NBA team, you know, the Seattle Supersonics.
Exactly.
Literally, Sasquatch was their mascot. Supersonic, right there. The NBA knows that Sasquatch have supernatural powers because they're subsonic, but I really think they're just the apex of nature, you know, echolocating. I honestly believe some of them might even have pouches like kangaroos and birds. If you look inside the birds and kangaroos, it's like a perfect access for a little baby. So who's to say some of these species, maybe the skunk ape or some of these weird ones out in Asia and even like the bunny yip in Australia could have pouches to hold their young. And I just think that's very interesting. Of course, it goes a little along the Dr. Wu marsupial theory.
Yeah. And it makes sense that Oregon, Washington might have more sightings because we have more mountains. We got bigger forests.
Honestly, when Jeff says that, like if he thinks that Washington has tenfold of Florida, like Florida has so many sightings. So if Washington has tenfold, then y'all have so many sightings, and it's just even, you know, the cap is blown even more off. And honestly, I believe that because I think there's 100 times
Florida's a big
stories that actually
Florida's
get
a huge state too. I mean, it's a big, massive land. Like Texas.
But you know, when you look at, it's not just the Northeast. I mean, when you look at Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, you skip across the plains of the Dakotas and pick up again in northern Minnesota through Wisconsin, Ohio, Illinois, you know, these upper Midwest areas all the way up into the Northeast with Pennsylvania and New York, northern New York, western New York. It's a mindset that I'm just telling you, if I walked into a cafe in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, or Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I sat down and friends of mine were in there and said, hey, you know, how'd your morning go? And I say, I was out archery hunting in my tree stand. Man, something freaky happened. I tell them, the response would likely be, oh, geez, maybe it was Bigfoot. And that's the end of the conversation. It's just accepted, you know, that these areas are so remote, have so much more. It's not that they're the size of Florida versus the size there. It's how much of Florida is remote enough to be the right. And I'm not belittling that or taking away from that geographical area, but I lived in Georgia. I lived in Alabama. I understand there's forested areas, but it's not thousands upon thousands of acres.
Like what looks right behind you, kind of.
I mean, you could walk for a month in one direction and still not be out of the woods in these areas that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's just not the case in Florida and Georgia and stuff. So not saying they don't exist there, but they don't move around a lot there. You know, they're probably find a niche or an area they're comfortable with. They move around from niche to niche to niche, but it isn't just like a go anywhere you want to go because there's cover everywhere. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And if you think about it, states like Montana and all that, they're less populated than most other states. There's only 500,000 people in the whole state of Montana, where in Seattle, King County, you got 1 million people.
Yeah.
So of course you're not going to get as much sightings, and the people who do live there in remote areas, like you said, they already know it's there. They don't need to report it because they know they'll get laughed at by the mainstream media.
Yeah, you know, I just think that it's you'd be hard pressed to think that you could go into a cafe in Florida and sit down and say, "Hey, I think I saw a Bigfoot this morning," without 3/4 the place saying you're full of shit. You know, are you freaking losing your mind or what? But you could go into northern Minnesota and walk into a bait shop and say, "Has anybody had anything weird happen over by north of Highway 71? I saw something cross the road last night." Nobody's going to think you're losing your mind, you know? I mean, there's going to be a few, of course, but when you are part of a geographical community where there's more people who have the same mindset as you, it's not as, you don't feel as compelled to need to run and find somebody to tell in the form of, let me get online and talk about it, or fill out a report, or call Matt Moneymaker or whatever, you know? I mean, it's just like, hey, I told the guys at the bait shop, and they reported. It's reported.
No, but very well said.
The local authority, you know.
No, what's it say? Morbid bear. That's awesome. You're farther than most get. Yeah, I mean, like earlier, Long Island wrote, in New York, we have an ambassador program for sightings with the New York Bigfoot Society. I cover Long Island, obviously, and we have people all over the state that go take the reports. That's awesome to know. That's cool.
Definitely.
It's easier to accept a report when you kind of know how it works. And that's what I was trying to do, make phone calls on, why am I supposed to believe these numbers? Where are these numbers coming from? You know, it makes it a lot easier.
Well, one thing that I would encourage people to do is, when it comes to just reports and encounters, not talking about evidence in the form of video or you went and cast a track, but I'm talking about just encounters. I would not feel uncomfortable coming on talking to anybody about it on any of these sites or chats in our community. But when it comes to evidence, if you get pictures or video, last thing I would do is share them within our community. I would try to gain, if you feel strongly that this is good evidence that you have, get the validation and endorsement of some experts before you put it out there.
See, that's a good question.
So, you know, and a lot of people don't know how to do that, right? And if you don't, there are people out there, you know, the Patrick Vaughn, myself, there's Mike Ann, you know, there's a lot of guys who are out doing some hardcore researching. And what I would do is, because ultimately it needs to get in the hands of, you know, if you're talking about a castable imprint that you've gotten, you need to get it in Jeff Meldrum's hands. Not everybody has Jeff Meldrum on their cell phone, right?
That's what I wanted to ask you. Now, say me and Bigfoot Anon found a perfect shot, perfect picture, and we want to get it to the experts. Can you name me some of the experts? I think you named one, but who?
Well, I the first person that I would get a video or a picture to would be Doug Hychek. And you got to find somebody who has access to Doug Hychak, although you can find him on Facebook. The problem is if you send him a friend request, it sits there dormant. You send him a message with an attachment to a video, and he doesn't see it for a month because he's getting 400 messages a day. But, if you were to get it to me or somebody else that's connected in some way, Pat Turner has Doug's ear. There's several of us that have worked with him on different things to where if I call Doug Hychak right now on his cell phone, he'll pick up and I say, hey, I'm going to email you a video somebody sent to me. Can you do me a favor and delayer this thing?
Can somebody in the chat put Jeff's YouTube channel in the chat? So
they could if I had one.
Yeah, he doesn't have a YouTube channel. He is just a pure investigator, and that's what I love about him.
So how could somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to?
Well, they can find me on Facebook. You can search Jeff Harding, and eventually you'll find an ugly face like this one to send it to. But to add me as a friend, I try to check that daily to see if there's somebody that's trying to get a hold of me. So I typically don't miss messages that way. But here's the thing. The only reason why I say Doug, it isn't because I work with him. It's because he owns a production studio, okay? White Wolf Productions. And so through Monster Quest and all the different documentaries that he's done, he can walk into his office and has 5 screens for editing, puts a video in, checks it for CGI, delayers it. I mean, forensically tears this thing apart.
Okay.
And looks at it. And you'd be surprised at, when people say, well, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. Doug is going to be brutally honest with anything he looks at. And I talked to him last night about this on the phone for almost an hour. And that's that the problem with video and pictures is we refuse to, as people who analyze it, we refuse to be honest with people about it. If you look at the level of, or the degree of vetting and whatnot we put into a castable imprint, let's say, okay? I get a footprint that I cast, I send it to Meldrum, and it's a shitty one, right? There's no dermal ridges, there's no evidence of a mid-tarsal break, there's no width to length, toe definition, anything. Jeff Meldrum's going to look at that and say, dude, this casting sucks. He's not going to sugarcoat it. He's going to say, I can't see this. I don't see the dermal ridges. And he's going to tell you exactly how it is, right? But when we see videos, here's a video with a red circle around it and somebody's auto-penned the face in so you can imagine where it is, And it's like, we want to look at it and say, yeah, well, maybe. No, we've got to be able to look at this stuff and say, I don't see it without hurting someone's feelings, because Jeff Meldrum doesn't care about hurting your feelings if you send him a shitty track, right? If we look at all the ways we analyze evidence, we need to analyze pictures and video to the same degree. Because if you're talking about from a moving the science forward aspect, it's got to be a really good video. It's got to be able to withstand that type of analysis, that type of vetting. And I would say that 9 out of the 10 videos that Doug probably looks at and says, well, of course, you've got ones that are faked. If they're really good, now you got to start looking at how is it really good, right? How did he get this good of a picture? Is it authentic? Because at that point, we become, as analysts, we become cautiously optimistic. We want it to be real. I want this clear video to be real. That means I've really got to tear this thing apart, looking at CGI evidence. You're going to forensically rip this thing left to right, front to back, in how this whole image and movement is created. And there's only a few people that really do that well, and Doug's one of them,
Is that you?
Yeah, years ago.
It's so different.
Yeah, I was probably about 25 pounds heavier there.
Oh, you're a handsome guy.
that show, how'd that go? You know, we kind of talked on Horror Talk right before you popped on there, but
I love the she squatchers. And the reason why I do is because it's an opportunity for me to, you know, when we talk about Bigfoot or sharing my encounter or things like that, you know, that's all within the Bigfoot phenomena, right? The mystery. But the she squatchers, they're more than Sasquatch. I mean, Jenna, and Tammy, we're talking about a couple empaths. We're talking about remote viewers, remote healers. These women have a wide paranormal spectrum, and it makes them absolutely lovely to visit with because they have the ability to really intelligently talk about a lot of different things.
They're great. So, they've been on my show 3 times.
Yeah. And Jen lives, it's funny, she lives in Grand Forks, North Dakota, which is just on the North Dakota edge of the Minnesota-North Dakota border. And she was asking me, she says, I don't want to ask you exactly where your research area is, but I've heard that it's north of, you know, northeast of the Bemidji area and this and that. And I said, well, you're right. And she says, I'm wondering how close it is to where I grew up on the Red Lake Reservation. Because Jen has some Native American blood and she was part of the Red Lake Reservation up there. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you tell me where your favorite site is to look there, and I'll tell you how far it is from my area. And she starts looking at Google Maps and tells me where it's at. And I'm like, you aren't going to believe this, but you're like less than 20 miles from my research area.
That's awesome. Everything's connected, man. And yeah, there's definitely some special people, and they've interviewed incredible people like Igor Burtsev, and he's a doctor, of course. And man, have you seen the video, Jeff? And Eric, I know you watched it back in the day of Igor talking to a Bigfoot on stage from Russia. It's very interesting. I'm not confirming or denying it, but you know, I get the wacko, you know, the label a lot. So if it can make me look like my stuff's kind of normal, then I enjoy it.
Well, one of the things that I'm excited to do is once this whole research thing has been closed down in my area and we've kind of landed the plane, I intend to take Jen, and if Jenna and Tammy can also join, into this area and have Jen do some remote viewing. And I'd like to find out, if I don't know by that point, where were they coming from, and ultimately how many were in their group and things like that. And I believe that she might have a pretty good chance at figuring that out. I think it would be really interesting to let her use her ability, especially since we're talking about an area that, you know, with a Native American background in her heritage. And this is kind of, she's connected to this land the same as these specimens were connected to this land. I mean, man, it's just like, how cool would it be to just stand there and listen to her tell you what she is seeing and what she is communicating? I mean, I know you'd pay money to be standing there.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll row all you guys up the river just to help, you know.
Hold on just a second here. I came unplugged.
I had a wet morning. I went to go get an eye exam, and they dilated my eyes, and I actually was trying to get contacts to wear under my goggles so when I could snorkel I could see better, but they said it's better just to really get you know, the goggles that have the prescription in it. But then I drive it home, and I was kind of having trouble driving, so I kind of pulled off down this dirt road that I knew of in Rocky Creek, and there's the Rocky Creek rod bender. So I had my camera in my car, and I went on a little like hour, 15-minute expedition through the woods, and I kind of got turned around because I couldn't see well at all, and I had to walk through like waist high or knee high water in between that, and it was a remarkable time. But I'm really excited to review the footage, and it was pretty funny. Right when you messaged me and got back, it was just perfect timing.
Yeah, I'm showing this. I'm not going to play this right now, but guys, Jen, during one of our interviews, she told us this story in a 6-minute. I took a 6-minute clip from a full interview we did with them, and she just told us this amazing story about this statue growing up and stuff, and it has a lot of paranormal and stuff in it. So if you guys want to see how well spoken she is, and how honest, and how much heart she has, watch that little clip. It's only 6 minutes long. If you like it, you can watch the whole interview, but check it out, man. Jen is she's wonderful in it. And it's just one of those things that when she's telling us a story, there's no way you can say this person's not real. This person, because it's personal. She told us a personal story, and she didn't have to at all. And that's what I was so impressed that we didn't have to go into. We're talking about Bigfoot, but we went into a paranormal part of her life, and she didn't have to do that, and she did. So, guys, check out that 6-minute video of her. I'm telling you, you'll love it. Hey, Tippet TV's here. Welcome. Some of the people that are here: BF Bud, Sweet Morbid Bear, met this person on the interview you did with.
She's
Amber,
awesome.
Amber, and I'm actually using one of Amber's paranormal clips in my breaking news tomorrow.
Heck yeah.
She did a very cool, I'm not going to say because I've ruined the video. She did a very cool thing during a research that I really haven't seen too much of, and I wanted people to see it. So
yeah, it was an awesome interview. It was kind of crazy because I had that interview, and then Jeff was on She Squatchers, so we couldn't enjoy each other's live, but I know we were both repping.
I finally found his video because they did it on the radio show, but then now it is posted on their YouTube channel too.
So they have an interesting format where they're live on radio shows all over, and then right after their 1-hour show, they'll post it to YouTube. So if you were going to talk live chat during the show, you'd have to go through ParaX Radio and get on that chat where they record the audio of it. But we record the video and everything for the show, but you're only hearing the audio of it on the radio. And then on YouTube, it'll actually show that audio capture with the video. But you're not able to chat in live chat at that point.
That's the interview. I'm going to put that link so you guys can check that out. There's a link. And then I'll go look for Connor's interview he did yesterday, and I'll put that in a link too. So those are the She Squatchers. And there's Jeff Hardy. So there's the link, so you guys can check that out. And then let me go find Connor's interview and put that in the chat.
So what's interesting is not only are they live when they do on the radio, for the next 3 months, their show will be played in empty slots on stations all over the world. And 2 months after it's aired, you'll get a Facebook message from somebody in Australia that'll say, "Hey, I just heard you on the radio. I found you on Facebook." And it's like, what? And it's the show from 2 months ago. They're just hearing it on their station wherever they're at in the world. So
I love that. I've done so many shows and interviews and random things that happens a lot to me. Especially with this Into the Fray recently interview, that's blown up like other places that I'm not really at, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I'm getting tons of messages through Facebook and through my email. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with Juan Torres says here. Sasquatch and paranormal is going hand in hand. It really does. It really does. Because tomorrow, during my breaking news, I took a clip from Mike, and I don't know if he noticed what I noticed in one of his videos, because he's a video he did a year ago. And
could be anything.
It could be anything. But what I was trying to make a comment about during the breaking news is how paranormal signs do go together. They really do.
I always used to tell people, until I see Bigfoot fart out an orb, I don't know that they're connected in that way. But Bigfoot being an entity and orbs being a real entity and spirits being a real entity, it's not to say they don't, for energy reasons or whatever, they coexist in certain areas. Until I, as a researcher, I have to speak to it from the standpoint that
you're right.
until I see Bigfoot step through a portal, I don't know that they use portals to get somewhere. That's not to say I don't believe portals exist and Bigfoot exists. It's just how do they cross?
The definition of paranormal is such a wide word. I mean, it could be a million things. When I think of paranormal, I'm more thinking of that I feel that a Bigfoot, it's like a medium in a lot of ways. They can feel you out there. They know you're out there. They got senses that they can do that we can't. I'm talking about like that kind of a paranormal, not like orbs and stuff, but the Sea Squatchers, when they came on, they told us stories where she felt a Bigfoot in certain areas, and she started to see orbs around this area that she felt there's Bigfoot. Is there a connection there? I don't know, but it's just cool to hear stories like that because it just makes you think.
There's, you want to know who's got as many orb stories as they have Bigfoot stories is Doug Hychak.
Really?
He lives on a lake up here in Minnesota that he was on his deck one time with his wife, or I should say his girlfriend, him and Yvette. And while they were talking, they looked over and here's this orb just floating there. And it's not some tiny little speck. It's like the size of a baseball. And it's glowing and it's right there hovering at the deck with them. And they were like, whoa, what's going on? And they see it. He's told me so many orb stories. If I remember this one correctly, it went into a tree that was right by their house, like a conifer tree or something. And the next day when he was outside, he's looking at that tree and there's a spot where there's like no branches, where there were branches, but they've been removed.
I hear that. I hear that from a guy in New Hampshire too. He says wood knocks aren't wood knocks. They're orbs flying into a tree.
Yeah.
And that's what he's hearing. But I mean,
but probably on orbs. I think 95% of all orbs are bogus. But 5% part of it that's the ones I want to see.
I believe that he has another deal where he was out on his pontoon with his wife and looking at the house, and they were filming. He actually has this on video. He's showing me the video. He's panning around the lake, and there's like this cluster of sparkles. It just looked like ticker tape, foil ticker tape being dropped. You know how that drops on a stage, but it wasn't dropping. It was like it was just suspended. And he was like, "This is weird." And they got real close up and filmed it, and the whole thing was moving. And it moved right over their house. And they got back to the dock, walked up to the house. They're looking at the house and the stuff's all around it. And he goes inside, powers the TVs, all of his HD TVs are blown out. They won't power up. The motherboards are blown out of him. His computer's blown out. I mean, the electronic thermostat on the wall's blown out. He had to spend like $10,000 replacing shit in his house. And none of his neighbors had that.
That might be what you were talking about kind of the other day about some people saying that there's good ones, there's bad ones or whatever. I don't know. Anytime I think I just saw my wife in chat. I go and grab her all the time. Like I go and grab her all the time when I see this shit outside. I'm like, yo, do you see this? Like, am I tripping out? Because a lot of times I don't share that stuff. I don't know the connection. I don't know it until I know it. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's a fairy. I don't know if it's I don't know if the Bigfoot gets in a ball of, a little ball and flies around. I don't know for sure. You know what I mean? I just don't. And it's a touchy, I'd like that they go together, but I don't know if they do.
On Doug's live cam setup up here, he's got a property that is, I don't know how many people connect this, but there's an individual that has had a ton of interaction on their property. And there's a lot of videos on YouTube about it. And that's the property that the live cams are at. And Doug's eventually going to be posting this where anybody can go to the site and watch any of these 9 live cams at any time, 24 hours a day, right? And these cams, he shares pictures with me all the time. They are 4K color lipstick cams that are very well hidden. They're not like game cams strapped to a tree. They've drilled trees out and embedded the lipstick cams and ran the wires down It's all live powered because they're on a property. They actually spent months running the power to these camera locations buried. So there's no like lithium battery, weird interference. It's all live powered cams, and they're all shooting straight to the cloud. And he will capture stuff and send it to me all the time. Say, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And we have more videos of orbs than we do of bears, believe it or not. I mean, and deer and stuff. I mean, and they're not just like orbs that are like, listen, you can take a camera and get a dust particle floating around and say it's an orb, just the way it will reflect, right?
Yes, you can.
Or an insect, the way it will reflect.
It's interesting with a person like Doug, who's got such a, like, his history is extensive on all different animals, all different things. For him to invest his time into something like that, you know what I mean? Where, like I always say it, like people, I respect people who could hang their hat on something, but then they go and they do this because it kind of, for lack of better words, it fucks up your flow. Like, I mean, it really, it can make you less credible. It can make you less, like, you know what I mean? This guy has such an extensive, like, life's work. And then for him to just aim the cameras up in the air is, that's important shit. And it's awesome to me. It's cool that that's what
it's neat how he collaborates with different people to do this so that it's not all on his plate at once. I mean, for instance, our low tech to high tech research, he's partnering with me. But the cams we have somebody on site that is partnered with Doug on that project, and that person does 90% of the heavy lifting with that, and so Doug is like a ninja when it comes to looking at something and saying, well, that's what it is. It's not that, it's this. I mean, he's seen it.
He's very thorough.
So when he sends me a video and says, I'm not sure what this is, what's your opinion? I'm like, I start getting excited like a kid at Chris, like, what's this video? If he can't figure out what it is, I can't wait to see it, And we have videos. I've got video clips. He doesn't mind me sharing them, but videos of orbs that will come around a tree and it'll be like right to the camera, right in front of it. And there's another one right behind it chasing it. I mean, the same path.
Yeah.
Two dust particles are not going to follow each other, chasing each other like that.
I just got one on film. Somebody put the timestamp up, and it looks like like something's on fire, like, and it just goes off screen.
Yeah.
Well, what do you say? What is it? Is it a, some people might say it's a cigarette ash. Some people might say it's a lightning bug. Some people say it's a fairy. Some people say it's an orb. And it's
foxfire or swamp gas. They'll call it. One of my favorite orb videos is from Tim T in Florida, guys. It literally, the orb lifts up a deer and carries it on screen, and then little seconds later, you actually see a dark head, like an apex head, show up. So we think that Sasquatch turned into an orb, lifted up the deer, carried it off, and then killed it. So it's pretty intense, and he narrates it the whole time. He showed it on multiple shows, and it's stuff like that we would love to send to Doug. Like, who knows what he would have to say, but of course, there's 1,000-fold for those kind of things, and a lot of stuff happens.
Doug shared with me a video that, now understanding these cameras, I mean, they're time stamped with a running clock to the 100th of a second ticking in the corner, right? And so that way, that's our tell on, do we have an upload glitch? When we see something moving and it's superimposed somewhere, what was the clock doing? If you can see the clock running with no gap runnage in the 100th of a second in the corner of that screen, this isn't an image upload issue, okay? So we have one where a bear is walking into the camera, kind of coming from the straight out to the left, walking in towards you to the right. And as it's coming down this path, it stops where its head launches forward about 5 feet, and then its tail jumps to where it is, almost like it walked like to the edge of a portal or something really screwed it up. And that timestamp is running smooth as a bell in the corner. And at the same time, there's an orb right there, like right behind the bear. I mean, it's just like, you know, from a forensic, if you're going to forensically analyze this, the telltale sign is that clock is ticking smoothly the whole time. This isn't a pixelated problem with the camera, because everything else in the image is clear. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't like, if that bear's going to pixelate and transpose, that clock's going to glitch and freeze for a moment and then start again in advance. And the whole image is going to pixelate. It's not just that one little part of the image does that. Yeah. Something is there that bear moved through that disturbed its physical presence for a moment. I mean, that's really the only explanation you have for it at that point. Mm-hmm. But
hey, Connor, that link you put in, is there like a orb carrying deer? Is there a timestamp on when that orb?
No, he just narrates the whole thing. So, you know, if you're interested, just watch the whole video from Tim T. Okay. I'm not sure if it's a really long video.
3 minutes,
yeah,
guys.
It's 190 seconds. Come on. It's almost as short as to do the math on how many seconds there are. But yes, I think the orbs and the Sasquatch are definitely connected. And Owlman talked about blue orbs being nefarious, and then red and orange orbs are kind of positive. And I've had some strange encounters with an orange orb. I've never seen any blue ones, but my buddy Tyler, who's been touched by a Sasquatch, has been followed by a blue orb. But the blue orbs supposedly are spies, you know, trying to hunt down Sasquatch as well. So a lot, you know, correspond and then also contradict each other. So just be alert and don't be lured off by orbs though either, because there's missing 401 stories that a father and son were, you know, deep in the forest and the son was down and out and they were really needing help, and the dad sees an orb and it makes it seem like there's a headlights going in the woods, so they run after it, or the dad runs after it, and then when he comes back to us, there's nothing there, and when he comes back to his son's gone too. So sometimes don't let them lure your mind or take over your soul.
You know, I've got a question for Connor and Mike, and I don't know if this may have happened to you before too, Gypsy, but do any of you have any experience where you see something, whether it's an orb, whether it's just a light on the horizon that appears a certain color to you, and when you talk, like, for instance, when I see a light that's glowing amber, and I say, hey, Connor, look over there. Do you see that amber light? You know, most of the time, if it's an artificial light, you're going to look at it and say, yeah, I see it. It's an amber light. Or a satellite that's blinking. You can almost see like a green hue to that light rather than a white hue. And I say, does that look like it's got a greenish color to you? You'll likely see that. But when it comes to things that are unexplainable, I don't know that we always see it the same. And there may be a reason for that. I've had it to where I see an orb.
Totally agree.
I'll say, look at that. It looks chartreuse, like a yellowish glowing green, right? And you might look at it and say, it looks pure yellow to me, or it looks orange to me. And it just occurs to me, is this because of the intention for it being there, that if it's there for you to see rather than for me to see, maybe it looks different to you? You know what I mean? The energy that puts it there, is that trying to project differently to one person than another? Because it's not all the time, but I've had it to where it's hard for me to say, well, orange ones mean this, yellow ones mean this, whatever, because I've had it to where two people in the same spot see the same thing and it's not appearing the same color to each of them.
Yeah. Well, it's all, you know, some of the stuff is personal, and you know, it's sometimes you'll see it and nobody else will. Sometimes you'll hear it and nobody else will. You know, that's always been my take on it, that this stuff has been personal, and there's certain things that you're meant to see that others aren't. I mean, it happens to me on a regular basis. There's it sounds crazy, but there's a thing that I see up in the sky all the time, and I don't know what it is, if it's a star or an orb or a UFO or whatever, but it starts off red and it blinks this bright red until I see it. And then when I see it, it stops doing the red. Like, and then it happens every single time. It's red, 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 red. And then like, it's almost like, oh, I see it. Like I got my attention finally. And then it changes. I don't know if that's a possibility too, maybe, like
it's like that. It could be the same ethereal intention of it being there. Like when people say, oh, I felt a presence and it feels like an evil presence. Well, maybe it's not there for you. People who go look at these haunted locations and try to connect to spirits, and people say, well, I feel an evil presence. It may feel evil to you. Doesn't mean it's going to feel evil to somebody else, because it might not be there for you. It's supposed to feel evil to you.
Yeah, a lot of it's perception too. I mean, even if we watch a video on a puppy running down and tackling a child and then kissing them, you know what I mean? I might see that, and then somebody might be like, oh, that's terrible. Like, who let people do that to their kids? And that's malicious. And, sometimes it's literally just like a vast difference in perception.
Well, think of it this way, and this may be kind of an elementary analysis or example, but let's say I'm having a bad day and everybody I meet's pissing me off, and I'm going to meet Hunter at the bar to have a beer so that I can just relax, right? I walk into that bar, I'm walking by everybody in there, I'm giving off a damn really bad vibe to, until I see Connor, and he'd be like, hey, here's Jeff. I'm not giving that vibe off to him, but everybody else in the room I gave it off to. And you've got to realize that I don't want to say emotional intent, but that energy that's being projected by one object isn't equally perceived by everybody who connects to the object, But
well said, all of that. I think it's all energy balls. We are all just walking grids, and especially when we're doing research in the forest, we bring that energy with us. And us three, just as examples, and plus Eric and his brother, so us five as examples, we bring that energy. We can manifest days before kind of what can happen, try to picture it, and just bringing that positive light of just curiosity, but also the just positive drive for more answers. And sometimes that seems nefarious to the wrong people, but I think it's actually like a mighty cause. And we all see and feel different things, because I hear different things in the forest, and then I look over and no one's picking them up. And then other times Tristan's spider senses are going off and I'm walking around like nothing's wrong. So and there's other times that you actually tap in together and you're just overcome and swept by it. So there's different pockets and windows of energy that we all tap into.
I jokingly try to project to when I talk to people about what I do for a career in real estate. I'm a real estate broker. I own a couple of real estate firms. When I meet somebody that I don't know that's thinking about listing a home, and I'm talking to them, I'm trying to project that image of, hey, I could hang out with this guy for an hour and have a beer, right? I mean, if I can get you to feel that way about me, it's likely that I can get you to do business with me. That's the same way I've got to walk into a researcher. I've got to be projecting that I could hang out with this guy type feeling. I can't walk in there pissed off because my truck didn't start this morning and I'm running late and giving off that energy. I mean, it's like, you almost got to just sit down, unless you were purposely trying to give off that energy. There may be some, for a research purpose, maybe you'd try to give off that energy, see what kind of reaction you'd get. But
you're going to end up with a swollen eye and 3 scratches across the chest. I did the interview with Daryl, and he was cussing out the Sasquatch or strange shadow being, and punched him in the face and clawed him, and then he shot it 3 times, and it just vanished into the forest, and that's some crazy stuff. And I think that's a little beyond our hairy friends and our ancestors in the forest. I think that might be stuff, extraterrestrials and outside the ice wall. And just to touch on the satellite, I think satellites are like from the Matrix. You know, I don't think anything's up there, but I've seen the lights, and I've seen it when they time it up. So I think it's all a glitch in the Matrix or a program.
I know with your background, I mean, you can't subscribe to the theory that a satellite's revolving around something. You know, I guess from that aspect, if you're going to look at it from your hive's aspect, from a flat Earth aspect or a domed aspect, a satellite would be more like an EKG signal. Yep. It's going left to right, and it might go right to left, and it might go up and down, but it's not leaving that plane. It's not going to start going down or up. You know what I mean?
I like that, how you said a signal, because I always say it's like a projection up there. So that could be along the same lines. So that's very interesting. And that's what I love, you know, that different beliefs lead to other outcomes. And that's why it's beautiful when the paranormal and Sasquatch and even the flat earth community can combine. And a lot of people just want to censor just people's just feelings and thoughts. But when we let them out, the beautiful happens. You know, we can't be stuck with cat dog. Let's unfold and be one.
Looks like we lost Mike. He's trying to get back on.
He was glitching a little bit, so he might have a bad signal.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I mean, if you've been watching my breaking news lately, I've been calling it a celebration of all communities, energy of all communities, because it's time to where we need to start sharing information with each other. You know, it's bad enough that we know the public, when you talk about this to the regular public, they're going to look down on you. And then it's weird how different communities don't like to combine the two. And we're not saying paranormal is exactly with the Bigfoot. No, we're not saying that. We're saying have an open mind that, you know, the possibilities of some of the stuff that might be true.
My favorite
perfectly, like, you know, you and I, you know, we're around Earth, you know, Connor's flat, no big deal. But I'm open to listen why people believe a certain way, because in this world, you just never know. I'd rather be prepared for some kind of truth than not be prepared.
Well, I look at it like you've got to be able. Okay, so we spend as a community, let's just say as a whole, anything unexplainable, any paranormal defined community has to be able to look at the 90% that we can agree upon, and off of that move the science forward. The 10% we don't agree upon, we've got to be able to have intelligent conversations about, rather than use that to poison each other. And that's the problem. And I don't care if you're talking about an online community. I don't care if you're talking about, let's say an organization, a political organization, or a nonprofit. I mean, I'll just use this as an example because I think it's so applicable, and I'm not trying to steer people one way or the other, but you look at like the pro-life community. The pro-life community, they all pretty much have 95% of the same goal, right? But yet the different organizations within that community are at war with each other and poison each other over the 5% they don't agree upon. And it doesn't advance the cause when you do that, because all your energy and focus is on this 5% that we disagree on. We can't let that happen in these communities that we exist in. We really need to support each other, encourage each other, educate each other, involving the 90%, and celebrate the 90% that we agree on. And that remaining part that I have a theory that differs from Connor's theory, or he has one that differs from Mike's theory. We've got to be able to talk about those in a way that even me and Connor talked for like 3 hours on the phone here last week. And listen, there's things that when I look at let's say if I'm a round earther, I'm going to say there are things involved in my beliefs that don't make sense to me, that I have issues. I don't really understand why that is. And then I listen to Connor's, supporting his beliefs. And I can say, I agree with that, or I find value in what you're saying there. But here's the parts of yours that I have a hard time wrapping my head around. There's conflict within the way I reason and try to look at that. And I can't think of one thing that I come from a position where I'm 100% right on this subject. And therefore, when I talk to other people, I can listen to what their feelings are, but I will have all the stuff I need to squash wherever that 10% exists, right? Yep. I don't know of any subject that I feel 100% on. I have to be open-minded.
I do want to mention to people in the chat, I put this link up, and this link, I know this sounds weird, guys. Dune is a porn movie for movie critics. But during that video, Jeff came on, and probably after the first 40 minutes of the video, and we got into a deep conversation about a documentary that he's making. It was a great show. I know it doesn't say we talked about Bigfoot at all in that video, because I know Dune is a porn movie for movie critics, and we talked about Bigfoot documentary, but it did happen. And
I drug you into the weeds there.
A lot of people aren't subscribed to my horror talk channel. I get that. A lot of you don't care for movies, but if you do, that one video has a lot of great conversations with Jeff about the documentary movie that he's working on, or with the group and all that. And so I just wanted to mention that.
And it's a 4-part documentary that doesn't have anything to do with Bigfoot. That's the crazy part of it.
What I thought was pretty funny, I was at work at the time, and the walking legend was there, Chris, and he pulled it up on his phone, and I'm like, he's like, oh, Eric's about to go live, and he says the title, and it was kind of like he like mumbled reading it, and he said porn, and I was like, what, like Dune porn? And I was like, yo, give me the phone, and I read it. I'm like, whoa, this is bold by Eric. I'm like, he's gonna get another strike or whatever. We're gonna get strike 2 on that channel.
If you heard Moses' show last night, Connor, I was talking about in our phone conversation me and you had the other night.
Yeah.
I was Googling something about, I think it was on imprints, right? Like castable imprints, footprints. And I was trying to figure out something about, has anybody ever made a claim that this is a female or a male? You know what I mean? Not just based on size, but trying to see if anybody's ever drawn a conclusion of, you hear adults and juveniles, right? But could anybody look at a print and say there is a distinction they felt was male or female?
No, Danny, it's not Bigfoot porn. No.
So I looked up, I Googled female Sasquatch. I don't remember what it was, print or announced, whatever. And the returns was one of the first videos that said The Geek, a 1973 or something like that film. And this was like a 7-minute clip from that film. So I look it up, and do not pull this up, Eric. Do not. You will be knocked off of YouTube if you do. I pull it up, I'm watching it, and there's a bunch of hippies in the 70s, so like 3 or 4 guys, 3 or 4 women, getting all their backpacks out of this van. They're getting ready to go hiking in the woods. And they're out hiking, and while they're hiking, the weird music, you see this guy dressed up in this Bigfoot costume walks up and grabs the guys, and it shows them throwing them around like an action movie. And he grabs this chick and rips her clothes off and starts right on the trail there. And it's a bad Bigfoot costume that obviously had a hole cut in it where you would need a hole cut in it to make a movie like that. And it is full-blown porn. And when I was talking to Connor that night, I said, is this a thing, Connor? Is this a thing? And we searched Bigfoot porn. It's like, Yeah, it's a thing. There's like 100 returns on people making movies. I'm like,
and it has crossed over to literature, and Stacey Brown mentioned it last night, but Bigfoot erotica is like huge. So as a writer, I'm writing my wild man adventures. I need to start writing some fantasy stuff for the ladies, because I guess there's a bunch of girls out there that fantasize about getting it on with, the big man, and other things like, Stockholm stuff.
I'm not sure how pissed off you gotta be.
I'm still not over it.
I don't know how pissed off you got to be at an ex-boyfriend or something to develop that kind of want, but I have a hard time after I watched it and saw these movies, these clips on the subject. I didn't actually watch them, but I seen how many there were. I just felt like it's hard for me to look at my hobby and community the same. I felt like, geez, I need to go buy some damn golf clubs or something, But,
just like golfing is a whole other thing, People on purposely hit off the fairway to reach over there.
Play the leading role in Bigfoot porn.
Yeah, he could.
Now let me ask you, Jeff, the most famous picture, the most famous shot of the Bigfoot, this one right here, one of the most famous picture shot, whatever you want to say. Now there is people saying that this Bigfoot has boobs.
Yeah.
And so some people think that's a mother, a Bigfoot. That's a woman Bigfoot. I'm just curious of, what are your thoughts? I know we don't physically know because there's no DNA, there's no physical proof, but do you think that could be a female Bigfoot if you believe this picture is real?
I think that it is a female Bigfoot, first of all, and I also believe that, and you're going to see some of this, I believe, in Legend Meets Science 2 when Doug and Justin get that documentary out. That you hear about how people have tore this video apart. I mean, they forensically dissected this video every way they can. But Legend Meets Science 2 is going to specifically address this video in a way that nobody else has. And they're not just looking at the specimen, they're looking at the background, they're looking at other things. And they are going to present some stuff in that documentary that's going to blow your mind. But I think that one of the reasons why she's moving so, in my mind, she's not taking the most direct route to cover. She's walking along the river. In my mind, she should be walking straight away from this camera angle to get into that cover. There's a reason why she was walking left to right. And I think that there is a juvenile present there, that there's a reason why she went that direction. It wasn't if you do something to scare the shit out of me, I'm going to go 180 degrees away from where you're at, looking for the closest cover. That's not what she does in this video. And I think there's a reason for that. But that's just my opinion.
Definitely. I'm very interested in that as well. And a lot of my beliefs correlate with that. And a lot is going on in that footage. Of course, some people say she has like a hernia or a bulge on her leg, and that's why she's moving slow. I've seen some frames that, like, when she turns, you could see part of her head go up, like her body shifts. And that makes me think there was actually a baby on her the whole time, somehow, hiding from the camera the entire time. And then that goes with the pouch stuff, or it's just a glitch, but it was just very interesting. And then there's other footage that you could see a couple Sasquatch in the background. And then there's the MK Davis, about the Sasquatch massacre. And I've seen a lot of extra footage and heard a lot of the stories. And I know there's a lot more to this story that goes on than just two cowboys were going in the woods. They needed to log that area. The Sasquatch were not letting them log that area. And I know Jerry Crew knew a lot more too. I've spoke to Carl Crew, and he's actually going to be on Discover Sasquatch with Chris Reinhardt, and I guess they're supposed to really blow the lid off this PG footage. So I'm super excited for that too.
Yeah, I think that it's not likely that she was alone. I think that I have a theory on, I talked a little bit about it with She Squatchers, as far as it's a theory that starts when you start talking about the size of Bigfoot, okay? And you start talking about the biggest specimens you hear explained in detail in sightings, let's say south of the Mason-Dixon line, are probably 8 foot tall, maybe 800 pounds. I mean, that I've never really heard of too many bigger than that. I'm not saying they couldn't be. I mean, certainly, just like humans, people are extraordinarily tall or big in certain cases. But, the average size, we're talking about an average here, okay? It's a different climate. Everything's different. Northern specimen, in my mind, I haven't found a hair less than 8 inches long. And we're talking a lot of hairs here. And I talked to Doug about this. He feels the same way. He doesn't find short hairs up here. They're very fine. They're very limp. They're very absent of medulla. I mean, meaning when you rotate it in a tweezers, it hangs down like within a half an inch of that tweezers, no matter what direction you rotate it, okay? You pull a hair out of your head, there's a natural curl that you can get it to go up. And if you even a female who has long 8 or 10 inch hair could actually rotate where it goes up a little bit before it bends down, depending on the natural curl in that follicle. The reason for that, I believe, is there's more follicles per square inch for an insulating factor in these regions that we get below zero for 3-4 months a year and 30 to 40 mile an hour wind chills, I mean, in order to exist in that, you have to have a lot of follicles per square inch to create an insulating factor. And you may shed some of that hair in the summer and regenerate it, but those follicle pores are still that many per square inch. When you start looking down in Florida and Georgia and Texas, I think that follicles on the average are a little shorter, are a little thicker, and there's less per square inch because now they're needing to accomplish a ventilating factor. They're trying to get rid of the heat in the body and the sweat and things like that. It would not make sense that they'd have as many hair per square inch.
Makes perfect sense. The hair we found in the green swamp was about 3 to 4 inches.
Yeah, and I've seen Tim T's hair samples. To me, there's still areas that are absent of medulla, but they are a little bit darker in color on that specimen that he has samples from. And they are coarse enough that if you hold them, they will go out a ways before they start to curl, if they curl at all. And it's a different climate, completely different climate. And when you start talking about sizes of individuals on average, the encounter that I had was 10 foot tall and at least 1,200 pounds. And when I say that, I'm talking from experience of being the son of a hunting guide. I've seen 10 foot tall grizzlies that weigh 1,200 pounds. And I've seen the body mass that they have and the size and the skull size. And so when I look at something like I saw and was standing right in front of me, I'm able to use that reference and say, okay, it's not the exact same shape. It's not standing in the same way on a hind legs that a bear would, but looking at body mass, looking at height, looking at skull size, I'd say it was 1,200 pounds, all of 1,200 pounds. Now, why would these alpha males be 1,200 pounds and 10 foot tall up here, but yet your average adult male size is 8 foot and like 800, maybe 850 down south? You think about the body mass that you need to survive in that cold climate, it completely makes sense. And maybe the diet that it exists on is different. I use the analogy, let's look at a 7.5-year-old white-tailed buck in Alabama. It's got great big horns, just like they do up here. But the body, you're talking 200 pounds at the top end, body mass. And I shoot a 7.5-year-old buck up here in Minnesota or South Dakota or North Dakota. You're talking about close pushing 300 pounds. I mean, it's 35% more body mass, same age. And if we run the DNA genome on this, we're talking about the exact same creature.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, when people say, well, why are they so big up there and why aren't they down? They don't need to be that big down there. It's 100 freaking degrees. It's not easy to be 10 foot tall, 1,200 pounds when it's 100 degrees every damn day and humidity every day. Your coat might look different. But if you're going to try to exist and burn the calories it takes to exist in 50 below wind chill for a couple months a year, you need that body mass. You need that expendable body mass that you can. So, I'm just looking at that from a scientific standpoint and saying other species, how it exists in other species, why wouldn't it here?
Yep.
As a researcher, I'm always looking for what's the most plausible explanation, right? If somebody said, here's 4 different theories that would explain that, I got to start not picking my favorite. I got to start eliminating the least likely. Okay. That doesn't make as much sense as these 3. Now let's look at the next one. And in the end, the one that offers the most plausible explanation as to why that would make sense, that's the one I have to subscribe to until I start seeing evidence that pulls me off of it.
Hey, Jeff, what do you think of this comment? I think the Yeti in Tibet and Siberia may be larger than those here in the Western Hemisphere.
It would make sense based on exactly what I said about climate. Existing at those elevations, I mean, in those areas, the most remote areas for them to exist are in higher elevations, right? And it's going to be cold. I mean, I haven't been there, but you climb up a mountain in Tibet, even in June, it's probably pretty damn cold up there. I mean,
and just to touch on that comment, Kevin James would be a good Gypsy Road. Kevin Costner would be too, but Kevin James was incredible in
Yes.
Becky. Did you guys ever see Becky, that new horror movie where they're going after an ancient Nazi relic and this little girl finds it in the woods, and then Kevin James, of course, everybody's favorite delivery man, the King of Queens, comes and he hunts her down, and it's very brutal. I definitely recommend everybody check it out.
I think he put somebody cool who's going to play you. What name did he put?
Hiveless said Kevin James, who's the King of Queens.
But for you, he actually had a name of a person playing you. I'm trying to
find the comment. I don't have the comments in front of me. Connor Flynn could play Connor Flynn. He was at The End of the Day, which is a weird church movie, but it was really cool.
That's for me.
I was just telling Eric before, I just watched the new Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin, and the main villain, the head of the cult, that guy Tom Nowicki, he was in a movie with me in Lakeland. So it's just weird seeing a villain.
Cage is playing you.
Oh yeah, he could bring out his Mandy performance.
So if I showed you a picture of me in high school, which there actually is one on my Facebook, if you go look through my photos, my senior picture in high school, my doppelganger was Nicolas Cage in the movie Valley Girl. Wow. Like really, really young Nicolas Cage. You look at him and you look at me in high school, and it's pretty close. I don't know, as he's aged and I've aged, I don't feel the same, but
I think he's used a little bit of that blood rub, and then he's probably had some plastic surgery as well. But he's been incredible in his new movies: Pig, Mandy, Mom and Dad, Willy's Wonderland. There's one more that I'm missing. Oh yeah, Color Out of Space, the H.P. Lovecraft one. That movie was awesome, and I highly recommend all those. Anybody that said Nicolas Cage fell off, I'll meet you in New Orleans and I'll bury you right next to his pyramid. It's kind of funny. he built this giant pyramid in a graveyard for his gravestone so his wife can't take that from him in divorce. So it's like worth a couple $1 million. So if all rains down, he at least has that.
What's crazy is I love it when you can find mainstream actors that have a B-list type start to their career that is extensive, so that you can, and then because they establish that before they get really big, they have a passion for going back even once they're big and making these movies that they know aren't ever going to be huge, but they just have a yearning to go back to that place, in their career.
I should not show this, but here's a picture of me in school.
That's rad. Who are your friends?
Rudy Saavedra and Ryan Walker.
Wow. Dang, you were punk rock, man.
Yeah. I'm still good looking, at least. That's the good news. There's a great punk rock picture if I could find it in a second. But it is funny, it is like, God, that's what I looked like back in the day.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of movies, that big film festival comes out on Halloween 31st. So I'm super excited. October 31st, Halloween, All Hallows Eve. But there's like 6 movies being shown. So hopefully we end up at least top 3. Oh, yeah. Looking fresh, fly fitted.
That was high school.
Oh, he's showing a picture of himself? Oh,
yeah.
Man, I missed it. Oh, let me get that higher. Where's this thing?
Boy, that's reflecting weird. Let me do this.
Look at that.
We got a Mr. Lee sighting yesterday. Yeah.
Looks like Patrick Swayze right there back in the day.
Like Patrick Swayze. I was trying to think of a couple other celebrities. Patrick Swayze definitely is one. James Vanderbeek might be another one. I look like McLovin.
If only the ladies still felt that way, right?
Yeah.
What blows me away? Tell me if this has ever happened to you. I see people from high school every now and then that I haven't seen since high school, right?
That's me.
And just to give you an idea, I weigh about 190 pounds now. In high school, I wrestled at 138, okay? I was built for speed, skinny. And people will walk up to me in a store and be like, "Hey, Jeff, how you doing?" I'm like, "How do you even freaking recognize me?" I look in a mirror and I don't see the kid that was in high school. I don't see it anymore. But people will walk up to you and be like, "Hey," and you haven't seen him in like 20 years. It's like, how do you even recognize me,
Here's a pop question for you guys. Which one of those guys is Dr. Wu?
That's a good question. It looks like the guy right in the middle.
I was going to say.
In the Navy outfit, yes.
If I had to guess.
That's me on the bottom. That's Dr. Wu right there.
That's awesome.
Isn't that something?
Dang. Where's that at?
This was in San Diego when he graduated from boot camp. And we all went up there. My father, my other brother, we all went up there for his boot camp graduation in San Diego.
That's special, man. Did you ever go on the Midway in San Diego?
You know what? I can't remember, so I'm probably not. I can't.
Jeff, have you been on the Midway?
I haven't been to San Diego.
San Diego is very cool. Guys, check out Old Town. I'm pretty sure it's called the Whaley Home. Is a pretty cool house there. And then Midway has some ghost stories. And then there's been, so many battles fought with it, and then also just so much stories just based on it. So it's a historical place.
Here it is. I found my punk rock band picture.
Okay, what was your band's name? Because I was in a band in high school too. No,
we were never in a band. This is a group of friends that I have. A lot of people look at this picture like, "Were you in a band?" I'm the tall one in the back.
I like to compare high school band names with people.
If I told you guys what our fake band name was, I think I'll offend a lot of people.
I probably would too. So go ahead.
I'm going to offend a lot of people. A lot of women are going to be so pissed off at me. We were calling ourselves Johnny Abortions and the Coat Hangers. I'm sorry.
That is bad.
Edgy.
That is bad. It is bad. We were kids. We were young. We were stupid.
My high school band name, we were the Skinned Kittens.
Okay.
See, that's bad, but that's
bad
like
people. You and I never bad.
And then after enough negative feedback, we changed it to Void Where Prohibited. But
that's a good name. I like that a lot. I was part of a punk rock musical called Butch Queen and the Bad Habits. Right when I moved out of Ohio, I was living out of my car and I met a punk rock band, The Rhetorics, on couch surfing, and I thought they were surfer dudes and they smoked, so I thought they were cool, you know. And they accepted me with open arms into the house, and I ended up being the stage manager of the musical. And then we toured around Florida and we played at the Orlando Fringe Festival, and I got to learn how to play guitar. And I'm not very good, but I'm definitely a campfire player. And I got to play on Amber's show the other night, a cool song that I wrote about a witch in the woods. But it's came a long way, and I've only been back to Ohio once. So the punk rock world accepted me.
One of the coolest.
I'm going to show you guys this picture that my wife, 1 year for Halloween, I'm embarrassed to show this, that she tried to make me look like Edward for the movie Twilight. I don't know if it worked or not, but this is her dressing me up like Edward from Twilight.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you can really tell.
You look like just like a 90s pop singer, really. Like Ashley Parker Angel or something.
In high school, some really close friends of mine, they had a band. And the lead singer, his name was Bill, and Bill had an accident and was in a wheelchair. He was a quadriplegic, and it was cool that he was the lead singer. It's like everybody went to their shows. The band's name was Ill Bill and the Spinal Chills.
Wow.
I mean, it was such a cool name.
He kept it rolling.
Yeah.
That's me in New York on a four-wheeler with my daughter, who just would not get off the four-wheeler. Everywhere I went in the woods, she had to go with me.
That's awesome.
So I've got a band kind of that you would love. You might already know about them. I'm friends with the lead singer, and they're in town quite a bit. My band's opened up for them sometimes when they come. And some people in chat may have heard of them. But if you'd like kind of I hate using the word reggae to describe them because they're so much bigger than that. They have so many arterial delays and beats and harmonies, but it's John Wayne and the Pain.
John Wayne and the Pain. I like that.
You got to look them up. They are freaking awesome.
If it's reggae, man, and more than reggae, like psychedelic
it's
reggae,
way more.
Rock,
He actually plays, even though a lot of their music has an electronic type punch to it, he strictly plays an acoustic that he runs all these delays and effects through. And it's just amazing that he does this. But one video that's cool that they have, there's somebody in, I don't know if it's California, but they have a feature on YouTube they call Band in a Van. And they have like this huge, it's almost like a food truck, like a box truck that they have a whole studio in.
Yeah.
And so your band shows up to the band in a van deal, and your band sets up in there and you perform inside of this little space. And they have a song called Vibes, John Wayne and the Pain Vibes, that was recorded on Band in the Van, that will blow you away.
That will be the first one I'll watch, because
these guys are all about smoking the weed. I mean, everything. I mean,
I'll tell you what's actually inspiring. This is an old band. I know Jeff knows them. I don't know if Con knows them. The famous band called Cheap Trick.
Oh, yeah.
They actually have a new album out, and they had a song that was actually during an NFL game, and I listened to the album. I'm like, holy shit, these fucking guys are rocking. I mean, I'm not saying their age is their age, but 68 years old. Rick Nelson, 72.
Yeah. Yeah, Rick has the coolest guitar collection. That's what I really like.
The album was electric, and I was like, "Holy shit!" They said, "Fuck it, let's rock this fucking album out." And I was so shocked. I'm like, "Wow!" I'm like, damn. I know it's an older band, but I was just so impressed.
I'll tell you what, it's amazing what some of these older, you don't even have to be an older band to lose your ability to perform live well, right?
They have not.
But some of them, I mean, if you looked at Kiss's farewell tour in the last 2 years, I went to that show. Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, those guys, they sound as great as they've ever sounded. I mean, and I love it when a band quits at the top of their game rather than keep going until everybody just gives them bad reviews. Quit when the stars are brightest, not when it's burning out.
Hobbs, the musical guy, he's a bass player. Just listening to John Wayne and the Pain, Festival Friends, it sounds brilliant.
Yeah. Are you able to play stuff on here without getting dinged?
Any music is so copyrighted. And it's not just
these guys aren't really that big, so I don't know that it would be.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised because me and Connor did a show about Venom, and I got a strike on it.
Okay, let me ask you this: like the Band in a Van video where they do vibes on there, that's not it's a song that they're performing live rather than off of the version off of an
live
album.
Songs are copyrighted too.
Are they? You see so many people show videos of live performances that they just film on their cell phone. They don't get dinged.
Music is like a 50-50. You can play music and they'll allow it, but they make all the commercial money. No big deal. But there's certain bands that they'll copyright it. For example, I make music videos for movie clips on my Horror Talk channel. And there's some bands I try to use an Ozzy song. Boom, bam, no way. Fuck no. Let that go out.
It's the way that it searches for it.
They're not Ozzy or AC/DC, but when there's some bands they'll allow it to be played, they collect all the money, which is no big deal. But the thing is, at least when you upload a video, it runs through their fucking computer system, let you know if you can play it or not. But if you do it live and you don't run it through an upload, they can shut down the instant live show that you're doing. Like Connor and I doing a live show. I played a song or a clip. They shut the video down during our live show. I don't know. Their filter to recognize that is glitched. It's not right because my own band music that we have never, even just stuff I'm writing that's I haven't even copyrighted it yet. And it's not something I intend to. I'll throw that song playing on a video up and it will, when it's uploading, it'll say, identified a copyright infringement. I'm like, dude, first of all, I wrote the damn thing. So, I mean, if anybody has a right to put it up, don't I? Funny. Right? That's funny. And second of all, if you think this has already been copyrighted, tell me who it is because I'm going to sue them because I wrote the damn song. Right? Well, Jeff, Stacey Brown, me, Bigfoot, did a show on Stacey Brown. We played some of his clips of his famous Bigfoot footage. And YouTube, after we did that show, YouTube said you either take that clip out or the video comes down. So I actually had to remove a Bigfoot clip from an interview that we did with Stacey Brown himself.
This is crazy.
I lost one of my best clips to copyright. I had to go to the bathroom when we were out on the ocean, and I was swimming with the sharks going pee, and it was a good video. And my dad's music was playing in the background, so it got wiped from my video, and I already had it. I already had it deleted from the file.
Dr. Wu makes videos with some music in it himself, and sometimes I'll bring it over. Now, some music is allowed in the UK, but it's copyrighted in the US. I go, Bob, I tried to put up a video. They took it down, but it's playing in the UK, but it can't be played here.
So we'll test this. Here's a song that my band recorded and we put up on our Reverb Nation site that's never been on a CD. It's never been copyrighted. Okay. And I'm not going to play the video of it, but let me try something here.
Nice. I gotta add you on Reverb Nation, man.
Can you hear this?
all the pieces that we tore and scattered in the wind. Didn't need to know that I'm still here. I never went so far away. My intentions to be clear. I've been waiting for the chance to say I never should have said goodbye. I'll tell you why. You make it feel, set me free. In my heart, drown you right there.
I like the guy's voice.
That's me.
It's kind of a high pitch, a little bit of a scratchiness in his voice. I like it.
Yeah, there's a.
I wish Joey, Hayes, I wish this was beer, but I gotta pick up my daughter soon, so I can't be drinking and driving.
That sounds awesome.
The reason why I wanted to play that is I'm curious now if YouTube will say, hey, there's music in this video that violates, because if there is, we've got a problem.
Yeah, YouTube is so, even Facebook now, with all this thing going on with the government shutting down, fake stories, fake lies, this and music and everything. Has really, if you don't do, it's like almost you're not allowed to do anything almost anymore. You're not allowed to talk about this or be copyrighted. You can't play this. You can't show this. I mean, technically, somebody can take off this video just for showing that Bigfoot footage, that famous Bigfoot footage, whoever owns it. And it's so weird. It's like why? I thought we were allowed to share and talk about clips and stuff.
Well, and even uncopyrighted stuff. Now you start talking about your opinion on shit, and half of that they don't want to let you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when they took down our video with me and Connor talk about Venom, we said all good things about it.
Well, I've seen like Lockbeard talk about, what some, not him advising people do, but what some people are doing in a preventative measure when it comes to, the pandemic to maintain their health. And they take his shit down saying you're giving medical advice. It's like, no, I'm trying to help people not die. I mean, come on.
He also said that teaching flat Earth should be an arrestable offense. So I don't know.
Why do you have to
that
worry
boy
about
is far out.
And people ask, well, why do you guys have to worry about that? You're talking about Bigfoot because because one day Facebook, YouTube, all this could say, well, Bigfoot is fake. You're providing fake news to the world. They can actually do that. They can say that one day because, listen, YouTube could take your channel down for any reason they want. They don't have to tell you a reason why.
No. Because
they own it. We don't own it. If we own our own website, different story. We own it. Since they own it, they can say, Jeff, since you talked about Bigfoot on your channel, a documentary, that's all fake news. Take us down. So
that would say that big hairy ugly thing would be impersonating Kamala Harris.
Yes, you're right.
The likeliness, it was too similar of a likeliness. We had to take it down.
Yes. Let's go, Brandon. That's going to get stuff taken down.
That bowl of oatmeal you were eating for breakfast on that video looked too much like the president. We need to take it down.
Yeah. That droopy balloon.
That rotting bag of oatmeal.
Oh, I love it. Oh, man. It's sad we haven't got a call in from Dr. Wu. I hope he's all right up in the mountains. Which mountain is he on right now?
It's hard to explain. It's in the Yosemite National Area. I mean, not actually in the national park of the mountain because it's illegal to hunt there. There's a place called Poison Meadows that's not been burnt down from the fires. They're in a spot, but I have talked to him a couple of days ago. He said it's so horrible right now because since a lot of the areas that has been burnt down, then nobody's allowed to camp out there. So everybody has to camp lower. He said there's so many cars, there's so many people out there that it's almost
they don't want you going to the burnt down area because you might find the carcass of something that's not supposed to exist.
Exactly.
But for me to have a conversation, he has to drive down to a town called Oakhurst. to be able to even get a single to talk down. Remember, he said he thought he had a good single up there. He does not.
Yeah.
He's always having interruptions and interference. I think ever since he worked at the Smithsonian, he's done some secret missions off land. Oh man, I think the radio waves around him definitely.
Using it. You're using it for a good reason, because a lot of them have to work during the week, so they keep him up there so the camp spot that they have don't get taken over.
Juan said my earlier comment was offensive to oatmeal.
That's awesome. I love Juan. He's a very wise people.
Let me ask you, Jeff. Let me ask you a question, because I got 20 minutes left before I got to go pick up my daughter. When you see these videos from your friend, like you said, he crisscrosses footages with you. When you see a footage that, like, man, people need to see this. People out there like Bigfoot Anon need to see this. Well, since you don't have a YouTube channel, like you're saying, how would you get that video out to us to see it if you felt like people need
what I would do is this, and I use this principle because I would show it to somebody like Doug. I'd get him to endorse saying, wow, this is interesting. You know, he's not going to sign on and say it's real, but he's going to say, I went through this, I've analyzed this, and I can't find anything that proves that it's not authentic. Okay. And then I'd have him share it.
Okay.
And then I would share it from where he shared it. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, does he have a YouTube channel? Is there a certain name for it?
Well, it's either that, or you're going to have him in an interview, say, for instance, when he's on talking to somebody and say, hey, here's a video we just looked at, and I'll give him permission to show the video, and he'll show it and say, I went through this thing. I can't really find anything that shows that this isn't authentic. There's no CGI creation in it. There's nothing. It's whatever. Or he may put it on his Facebook page or something like that. Or he may post it to one of these closed groups of scientists that he works with. And then you get 10 of them sharing it. And then you're going to share it from one of those locations. So it's not me saying, here's my video. It's me saying, so-and-so shared my video. I want to show you. Now, all of a sudden, it's coming from validation other than, hey, trust me, take my word for it, right? I think that's the strongest point you could launch it from, okay? Or being a guest on a show. So here's the thing. The reason why I don't have a channel is, and I'm not, this isn't a knock against people who are involved in research who do have a channel, but I choose to not host a channel because I don't want anybody claiming that I'm trying to leverage a monetary gain from the research that I do. Okay. And so when I share my encounter, or I talk about my theory on something, or talk about an experience I had, I'll share it with you. And I don't care if you got 100,000 followers and you make some money on it, that's fine. I don't care. But I don't want to make any money on it, because I don't want anybody to say that I'm in it for subs, or I'm in it for money, or I'm in it for likes, or I'm not looking for any of that. I would rather come on and pirate all of your channels for a half an hour and talk about something that I feel everybody should hear about, rather than put it on my own channel and everybody now cross-examines what's my intention for doing so. And that's the only reason why I approach it that way. I'm not saying other people shouldn't, but you see it with, let's use Patrick Vaughn for an example. He shares his experiences with Pat on Squatch Talk, but you don't see Patrick hosting the show right on his own channel. And that's smart, because nobody's ever going to question why. You might question whether or not what he's saying is real. You could do that with me or anybody, but you're not going to say, why did he choose Friday night at 6:00 to have this big show? And he's been promoting it for 3 weeks, talking about, can't wait till you get to see this. And, it's like, well, what's the point? So, and I've seen it a lot in this community. Guys who are genuine, guys who maybe even have had an encounter, and I've heard them share it, and it's very real. I mean, it just seems like it feels genuine. They can recall the details, things like that. They don't skip details. When they share the account multiple times, they aren't overlapping on inconsistencies. They talk about research from an educated point of view, where it's not saying that they have right answers versus wrong answers, but they're speaking intelligently on what they're trying to accomplish, right? When you see that, and there's people like that out there that still will promote stuff in a way that draws negative attention. People say, "Oh, he's just in it for, oh, he's got 40,000 people that watch, his videos and this and that." I don't ever want that negative, suspicion over something that I say. I'm not doing it for the money. I've never made $1 on anything to do with Bigfoot. As a matter of fact, Doug called me day before yesterday and said he was approached by a network to possibly look at doing a 2-hour special on encounters, where maybe he'd share four different encounters, like half-hour sections, where they would do reenactments, but they'd also have whoever it was that had the encounter willing to talk about it, right? And he told me, he says, yours is like in my top 5 or 10 extraordinary encounters I've heard. Would you be willing to be on it? I didn't ask him what's it pay or how's it, who's going to bring me there. I just said, yeah, I'm willing to do that. And he says, okay, well, he's still working on the pitch and what it would look like. This isn't a done deal or nothing. But my thing was, it would be a great opportunity to share an experience that people maybe could learn from or compared to their encounter or their experience and things like that. I'm not looking at it saying, well, who's going to pay me to fly me there? And are they willing to pay for hotels? And, I would need a new wardrobe. Who's going to buy that? I don't give a shit about any of that,
That's great. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I would definitely say Jeff's stuff is like more documentary aimed than just uploading to YouTube. I'm very excited just for the years of research that it's going to be unfolding, and that's what he's aiming towards. But of course, I have a channel. I sell my books. Go buy my movie. But guess what? If anybody really wanted to say I'm trying to get monetary, it's like, if you saw the groundwork, some of us put in, it's so much gas, money out of pocket, and time that some of us are just trying to fund it. And of course, I'm not trying to stand up for making money, but other people are extorting this business and community. And then me caught in the middle. I'm like, man, I do want to make a living in this world 1,000,000%. It's me. I love this world. I came up with the time that this is my career, hopefully. And I just have to keep running with it. But some people, they do a quarter or a blink of the work, and they have residual already. So I some way envy them, but I'm also like, I know that this world is big enough for my path. So
absolutely. And like I say, I definitely am never looking at anybody else with a channel who's involved in research or trying to move the science forward and pointing a finger at them. That's not what I am intending to do. What I look at is, I can tell you if this was 15 years ago, and everything was the way it is now, I probably would start a channel. I've got time for that. I've got time to invest in that. But I look at it like, I've got so many great friends that I've met in this community that have channels, and I'd rather just be the guest that helps promote them rather than compete against them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you're trying to make money off of YouTube, it's difficult. I mean, I don't think people realize that when there's ads on a commercial, you only get pennies to the dollar, and you're only allowed to cash out only if you make over 100 a month, and that's almost impossible unless you have hundred thousands of followers, 30,000 views and stuff. And people always say, Eric, if you're trying to make money, you should stick to one subject. Because when you have multiple subjects, people don't want to watch that. They only want to see a Bigfoot, or they only want to see a UFO. I'm like, well, I'm not there for that. I'm going to talk about every subject there is. I guess if I'm in it for the money, I'll stick with one subject. But to me, I like to talk about everything because it's fun. That's why every show here has a different title. One day we can be talking about the lost city of Atlantis, or we can talk about UFOs, paranormal, or whatever the fuck it is. Some new building they found in Texas underground. You know, because I do it because I love it. It's fun. And Bigfoot's right. It's not easy. Dude,
No.
breaking news might be fun, 30-minute uploads. That's a lot of fucking work to cut them together. But I do it because it's fun. And I
was listening to somebody that mentioned the other night, I mean, they've got a pretty big channel, and they were like, I've only gotten one check from YouTube, and it was like for $5.86. You know, I don't know how people are making a living at it. But, you know, there are some. I mean, you've got to, for those, I think it'd be hard in this community. And I'm not saying that, you know, Wes and guys who have gotten huge platforms built off of it, but you've got to understand how to leverage TikTok off of YouTube and leverage, you know, all these different platforms to keep building it all together, because collectively you're going to develop a persona that people will seek out. Rather than you try to market to them, they're trying to find you without you attempting to get in front of them, really. But I just, I guess for me, it's really a time thing. If like when you said the other day, can you come on my show at noon Central? And I'm like, sure. But I don't want to be nailed to having to come on at noon Central every frickin' Friday for the rest of my life. I can't do that. But
no, and I appreciate you jumping on. It's to hear other people's opinions, their ideas, because this show is not about telling you saying everything you heard is all about 100% facts. This is about discussions, and I always believe the show is about, it's up to you guys who's watching what you want to believe in. We're just discussing different stories, different ideas, different folklores. But at the end of the day, it's all up to you. I never want to be a channel trying to force anything down anybody's throat.
Believe it or not, I was in the live chat of a rather large broadcast that occurred in the last 72 hours. Okay, I don't want to nail it down where it's easy to figure it out. But in the live chat, I had made a statement that I had made probably 3 statements over 25 minutes, comments in live chat, mostly pertaining to the subject, wasn't negative with any of them. And then last night, or I just gave away last night, I made a comment that said, I think when anybody in research or in our community states something as a matter of fact, when they're talking about their theories and opinions, it does an injustice to our community. And I was muted for saying that. Now, I had texted 3 or 4 other people and said, I just got muted in the live chat here for saying this. And within 15 minutes, I was unmuted again. So, but I'm just saying that it's amazing how you don't even have to be critical of people in this community sometimes, and they just take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean, what I was saying,
dude, they all read it.
What I said should be applicable to everywhere. I mean, when you hear me talking, just today, when I was talking about the hair samples, I said, in my opinion, I think in the northern specimens, more follicles per square inch. It's finer, longer hair. It's an insulating factor. Versus down south, it would make sense that they would have coarser, shorter hair for a ventilating factor, right? I didn't say, well, here's the way it is. This is a fact. This is the way they are. I don't present anything like that. I'm very careful never to present anything like that. Well, but you hear other people in this community talk about their thoughts on something and present it as, well, the one thing that we need to remember is when you see this, this means this. Bullshit. There is not anything in this community that's actually a fact. There isn't.
No.
Other than that, there's a mystery. I could say Bigfoot's a mystery. That's about the only fact that you can put out there.
Well, let's do this, guys. We got 5 minutes left. I gotta go pick up my daughter. So let's start. We'll always do like a round table type of deal. So Bigfoot and on Connor, you got anything coming up towards today to the weekend?
Yes. Tristan from Hidden Relief is coming over pretty soon right now before we go to the Last Friday Festival in Chattahoochee. And I'm going to meet with Jack McClellan and Ethan, the guys from The Void Cat and Zillafoot. And I'm actually supposed to meet the Bridges family who are on Finding Bigfoot. And they have a huge den of activity of dogmen, alien, Bigfoot, and ancient deities, a lot of stuff going on over there. And they were on a bunch of other shows. The BFRO actually like lived on their property for a while. But this is the first time I get to actually meet them, and I'm supposed to camp out at their property. So I'm really excited about that. And then that film festival is on Halloween. Hopefully we're going to, have a good showing. I'm super proud of the movie. So I'm just really excited to be there. And they said masks are required. So I'm just going to wear a Jason mask because, the cloth gives me a migraine.
Hey, why not? So, Jeff, what do you got going on this week? You got anything special you want people to know about going on this weekend?
I don't have a whole lot going on this weekend. I'm going to be finally slowing down for a weekend, actually. But I will be, She Squatchers is having me back in 2 weeks. And they want me to come on and not talk about research, but rather share my entire encounter. And I've done that on some smaller channels, like 1,000 sub type channels, just a couple of them. But it will be fun to do. And I've shared it like on Doug's High Check show on Untold Radio. But honestly, when I share my encounter on radio or on a voice only type format, it's one of the reasons why I didn't do it on Wes's show, just because I think that you're missing that element of hearing a story told and seeing the face of somebody telling it, is just, to me, the only way to really catch that vibe and be able to sense, how much stock can I put in this? It's hard when you're doing it through just a voice only format. So I'm excited for the She Squatchers episode, because we're going to talk about that. And that'll be fun because they're going to reach a pretty big audience. So
and then tomorrow, guys, I'll have a breaking news dropping tomorrow morning at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. 10 a.m. I just gotta. I'm still finishing editing it together. That'll be out, and then we'll go from there. I want to thank Jeff and Connor. I mean, today was fantastic. We went everywhere, fucking from Bigfoots to Cheap Trick to music.
As we should.
It's raw, it's organic, and that's what I love about this. Everybody's real here. I want to thank you guys both. I wish I could do another hour, but I got to go pick up a daughter. It's Friday. They get out of school early on Fridays, and so beyond that, I do got to go. I want to thank you both, and we will have both of them back on together again because this is fun. This is fantastic. We're only scratching the surface.
Yes, can't wait till Dr. Wu's back, and Dr. Wu and Jeff will definitely have some exchanges.
He's got probably another 3 weeks up there, so it's going to be a while, but he will be back.
Good for him out there, man.
So beyond that, guys, I want to see everybody later. Have a great weekend and have a good time, everybody. See you later.
Peace.